627. But the original Bill of Rights, they're absolute. However, they've been trampled on significantly because when you can manipulate culture, you can now affect political policy, even if that policy goes against the founding documents. But people are none the wiser because, again, bred in circuses, they're distracted. They have to fight inflation. They can barely survive. Stagnation, wage stagnation. I mean, there are a lot of metrics for people to fall by the wayside and not pay attention to what's actually occurring in reality. So, of course, you're going to have the EU pursue Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he's got to find some strategy to circumvent this. You have to be able to stay in Europe so that it's not so much that he can run his business. I'm sure he still wants to run his business. He still wants to run X and Twitter and make it like the reason why he turned it into X is because when he was part of the PayPal mafia, they had an idea of X.com, which was a global. You didn't need a middleman to do financial transactions. That's what PayPal was supposed to be. Now he's turning Twitter into that, where you can communicate, voice call, message, post, make money, you can transact, you can do everything. We are coming up with the assumption, it's not even an assumption because he's explicitly stated this, he wants to apply this to the rest of the world because this would be a benefit to the rest of the world. Now, sooner or later, you'll get to a point where there needs to be competition even for Twitter, but right now, Twitter is the underdog in the massive big tech circle. And so it's good that Twitter is pursuing what it's pursuing because this gives people an alternative if they've been kicked off of other platforms, if they can't transact on other platforms, if they're not able to communicate with people on other platforms, if they're not able to create content and make money off that content. Twitter is a great alternative for that. Now what we have is Elon Musk, more so, he wants access. Well, now I'm speaking for him, which I really shouldn't do, but you would have this presumption if you're thinking from a hey, I own this platform point of view. You would think that, okay, I have the money, I have, my goals with this business, but at the end of the day, I want these people to have access to information. I want these people to have access to knowledge. And even if there's a lot of convoluted information in the fog of war, again, pertaining to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, at least they can utilize their human beings. They can, and not, of course, not every human being has super high IQ, but they can utilize their IQ, whatever critical thinking they have, or maybe they don't want to utilize it at all because that is their right to do so. But they can discern and make a judgment for themselves of, okay, I'm watching this content, now I'm watching this content, they conflict with each other, which one is legitimate, which one is not. But the very point of having people being able to even access that information, access that content, is what is so important. That is the significant factor of what we're discussing here. For the EU to come in, this is really to harass Elon Musk. This is really to say it's not so much hateful or illegal content or content that's not appropriate or offensive. I mean, partially, yes. It's more so for the EU to work in collusion with, again, people who puppeteer society. We want to have our narrative. We want to have our information. And any information that goes against that, that is a threat. That's what's offensive. That's what's illegal. Any type of information, even if it's true, even if it's legitimate, any type of information that goes against our information, because we are trying to construct society how we want to construct society. We want information to receive we want people to receive, and I'm butchering my words, we want people to receive the information how we want to display it to these people. We want them to view this conflict how we want them to view this conflict. We want them to see this war how we want them to see this war. We want them to go for this side how we want them to go for this side. We want them to promote the military-industrial complex how we want to promote the military-industrial complex. You kind of get my point. So it's like 1984. It's Orwell's 1984. It's been a while since I've read the book, and I know there's a movie as well, but I think it's called The Party, right? I think there's like two parties, but the main one is called The Party. Anyways, you have a major political party. They run the government. They control everything, and it's their information. And it's 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 is 3. And in the movie, in the book, there's some torturing that occurs if you are not psychologically aligned with that. And it's kind of like a brainwashing technique to get you to the point where, okay, you submit fully and wholly, not just from a surface level mental point of view, but a whole psychological point of view. Like you are emotionally now invested in the party, because if not, you have a defense mechanism that is telling you you must submit, otherwise there are consequences to your actions. Now that's a radical physical overt action, which potentially we'll get to, and other nations do pursue that, like North Korea and like China. But right now it's more of like a covert, I mean, this is explicit, this is overt, a letter being sent to Elon Musk, but for the average person, it's a psychological operation that is done covertly that you're not aware about. It's occurring behind the scenes, but it's occurring right in front of your eyes and you don't see it. And to the point where this is the information that is accurate, even if it's not even tied to the truth. I mean, just like Joseph Stalin, whatever information will best help the USSR, that is the information that is the truth. The truth is not the truth. The information that helps the nation is the truth. And that's what we're exposing. That's what we're clamping down on. Now, what's the solution to all this? Because, okay, we've presented a major problem, and I've talked for I don't know how long, 25, 30 minutes maybe. What is the solution? It's the same solution I presented in the past few discussions and sporadically, intermittently through other discussions. There's no other solution but this. One, you have to be you have to be aware. You have to be consciously, situationally, globally aware of the different current affairs on the micro, yes, but more so on the macro, on the timeless, evergreen type of concepts that will be pertinent and relevant, not just to us here in this generation in 2023, but in 2100 when there's another generation. They're not going to care as much as we do right now about the Israel-Palestinian conflict, at least the October 7th conflict, because it'll be so far removed from their point of view in 2100. But the same concepts, the same everlasting ideas, the belief system, that is what matters. And so we have to be aware. Then we have to take that awareness and we have to spread it. That's called public awareness. We spread that awareness, however you can spread it. Maybe it's to your friends, to your cronies, the people around you. Maybe it's you're a content creator. Then what comes after that? Well, maybe you're already occupied, you're already making money, so you can't really pursue something that I'm about to exhibit, which is competence, interest, and then monetization, pursuing a federal agency, pursuing a private corporation, pursuing a nonprofit, pursuing an institution, all lawfully. Like you become an FBI agent, you work with the DOJ, you become Attorney General of a state, just to name a few examples. Maybe you can't do that directly, or you can do that directly, but nonetheless, find a way to infiltrate one of the many institutions that control culture and political policy. Then you have to form a coalition, or you do that maybe even before or while you're actually trying to pursue these positions of power. You form a coalition, you're aligned, not necessarily unanimously, but you all believe in the Constitution. You may have a slight difference of opinion on specific ways of how to go about something, but that is drastically better than the opposing side, which is heavily on the left. Communism, socialism, fascism, authoritarianism, that's the difference in opinion you would have with someone else, part of the same coalition, you are still, it looks perceivably, you're in unanimous alignment compared to the isms that I just laid out. Then what you do is you actually rise up the ranks in these key positions of power. You gain a key position of power. Now you can make decisions on other people's behalves, and you can actually affect change in culture and in policy. That's the real solution. And if I'm going to tie another thing into this, the people who are part of the European Union, all of the different countries that are part of the EU, these are different governments. These governments are run by the people. There's only a few hundred to a few thousand people if we're considering the elected and unelected bureaucracy within these different nations. The people ultimately control the culture and the policy. If you're aware about this, if you're pursuing key positions of power, or you're just an average person, you have the ability in some regard with your voice, with your actions, to actually vie for a change in culture, to vie for a change in political policy. That is the true solution. That's the actual solution. This takes time. Every generation needs to be a participant to this because there's always evil in every generation. It's not like once you extinguish evil, it ceases to exist. It's in our DNA as humans for certain people to want to exploit part of the population for their agenda. Thus, you always need the next generation, including our generation, but generations thereafter, to come in and actually affect change. This is hard. There is sacrifice. Even in some cases, there's compromise. But you're pursuing for a larger agenda to ensure that the future of humanity, especially here in the West, where we've received individual rights. This is already like this is a phenomenon, a unique phenomenon. We don't know when there's going to be another absolute Bill of Rights that will ever occur again in human future, right? This could take another 5,000 years, another 50,000 years. Who knows when a generation will receive individual rights and be able to have the absolute right to freedom of speech. That is a gift that we take for granted. And we never want another generation to experience a society where they don't have that. But unfortunately, it's looking like that will be the future. I'm introducing Constitutes Plus. This is a place where you can access exclusive, uncensored content. This is the same type of investigative journalism that I've already been doing. Deep dives, unrestricted. This is where we can grow, we can expand. This will be a cultural movement. We can educate, we can entertain. Check the link in the description. I'd love to see you there.